Hi everyone, this is your host, Greg. Today's featured play is Deal Me Out by M.J. Halberstadt. If you like the play, you should know that the Boston Playwrights Theatre is producing the play in their 2019-2020 season, with Shanna Gozansky directing. The production will run February 13 to March 1, 2020. To learn more, follow MJ and the Boston Playwrights Theatre on their social media and visit bu.edu/bpt.
Boston Podcast Players is supported by a grant from the Bob Jolly Charitable Trust.
Boston Podcast Players.
The story thus far.
Cast of characters.
Empress of
An
Rome.
entity or demon.
A run-of-the-mill Polish guy in his 40s. Setting.
In a small hut
A
in the
long
city of
forgotten
Beijing.
era that lives both in the
Act
past.
1.
We create
and
the
possible.
world with the stories we tell
Act
about
1,
ourselves.
Scene
Because
2.
Steven, he could
Act
be anywhere,
1,
right?
Scene 3.
Don't give up the ship!
Cannon fire.
Bianca pushes the stop button. The end.
Welcome everyone to Boston Podcast Players, Boston's virtual podcast stage for new works by local playwrights. I'm Greg Lamb, the host of the show, and today I'm joined by today's guest host, multi-hyphenate writer Ethan Warren. So Ethan, what are all your hyphens about?
So, in addition to playwriting, I was one of the Boston Project playwrights at Speakeasy last year. I have a new play going up in the Cincinnati area this spring. I also am the writer-director of the indie movie West of Her, which you can find online on Amazon Prime and the usual streaming sites. I'm one of the editors at Brightwall Dark Room, which is an online film journal where we publish long-form film criticism 3 times a week. And I am trained as a fiction writer and short fiction that comes out every so often. You can find out more at ethanrawarren.com.
Great. That is a lot of hyphens.
It is. That's why I use the
didn't
term
undersell that.
multi-hyphenate writer.
Now, our featured play today is Deal Me Out by M.J. Halberstadt. What's your relationship been with M.J. over the years?
So I met MJ in 2017, I believe, because we were the 2 playwrights from this area who were accepted at the Last Frontier Theater Conference in Alaska, and
So you met him in Alaska.
No, I didn't. That's the thing. I emailed him. I said, I don't know anybody else who's going to this thing, and I would love to not feel like the new kid at school. So could we get together and get to know each other before we go? And so we did. We met for a cup of tea somewhere around here. Well, I believe MJ was working on a knit blanket the whole time we talked. And then it turned out he didn't even go to the conference. So I did feel very lonely and abandoned anyway. But I became a huge fan of MJ through there. It's sort of been a from afar admiration until now. I have read MJ's work on New Play Exchange and just really admired his craft. And so when Greg, you invited me to co-host an episode, I said, well, it's got to be MJ. So.
And what would you like the audience to know about his play Deal Me Out before we hear the excerpt?
Deal Me Out is a play that I really admire for a bunch of reasons that we're going to get into as we talk. It is told primarily in real time as a group of longtime friends who are self-described weirdos in a purple state that MJ suggests could be Maine. This group sort of splinters and comes apart at the seams in the wake of the 2016 presidential election. And then interspersed throughout the play there is a series of flashbacks that unfolds in reverse chronology. So as you're seeing the group fall apart in forward chronology, you're also sort of seeing them come apart in reverse as each successive flashback jumps back a year and additional figures are missing, have not yet joined the group. And the comparison point that jumped out to me, although they're wildly different in construction, is the musical The Last 5 Years, which similarly operates on 2 interlocking timelines, one that progresses chronologically and the other in reverse. And Deal Me Out is a play that is very deliberately and beautifully plotted and at the same time deeply naturalistic, which creates a sense that the viewer is a fly on the wall during this one momentous and agonizing night. But at the same time, there is this sense of a very assured and very calibrated hand on the dramatic rudder. And MJ is an immensely and I would say almost preternaturally talented playwright, and I'm really excited to be here to share his work with podcast listeners.
Deal Me Out by M.J. Halberstadt. Characters.
Des, male. He always gets the blue token. If there isn't one in the game, he'll use one from another game.
Oberon, male. Hosts the group, a fact that he uses to earn priority in choosing what game to play.
Cleo, female. Has been known to cheat, but only in order to let someone else win when they're having a bad day.
Agatha, female. Doesn't care to finish a game she knows she's losing.
K, non-binary, they, them. Don't bother challenging them on the rules, they have them memorized.
Lucien, male. Most likely to win, least likely to close.
Note on casting. They are a group of liberal outsiders in the suburbs. They've known each other since high school, and in a town like this, these friendships are all they have. Casting should reflect a mix of outsider statuses. They are fat, skinny, have too much hair, not enough hair, piercings and tattoos, and hair dye and makeup. Wear too much black, dress too formally, don't dress respectfully enough, reveal too much skin, etc. Des is, or can, pass as white. Lucien is a POC. The others should be a mix. November 2016. Oberon's father's garage. One door exits into the house, another leads outside. Today, Oberon and Des are playing Nintendo 64. Des extricates himself from Mario Kart and sees what Agatha and Cleo have brought in.
I love it when it's the girls' turns to do snacks. They know how to do it right.
Des goes. Without him there, Oberon withdraws from the game and the room takes on an air of conspiracy.
2 hours, guys. I don't know what else to do with him.
You spent how many years playing video games with him? After tonight, it's done.
I told you we should have done it in an email.
And I told you that would be mean as hell. And besides, it's too late.
Sorry, dude. This is happening.
And how do you think he's going to take it? All of us ganging up on him? How is he seen today?
He's being all sentimental and buddy-buddy and asking me about... am I okay about the two of you?
Incidentally, why are you being so squirrely talking about the wedding?
Well, are you even inviting him
I
anymore?
hadn't thought about it.
No, he's not invited.
We did not talk about it yet.
Well...
Later, after we do this.
I can't fucking wait.
I don't think anyone's more excited about it than Kay.
When did they get here?
They said they'd be here right on time.
Were you trying to blow my mind tonight?
Oberon quickly returns to the game. The others turn to Des, who has come in with something behind his back.
What do you mean?
Des pulls out a brand new copy of Pandemic Legacy.
We're finally doing it? Wait a sec. I'm phrasing that as a sentence. We're finally doing it. Agatha, did you see? Oberon got Pandemic Legacy.
Remind me what's special about Pandemic Legacy?
It's like Pandemic on crack. It has an overarching story arc that continues as you play it multiple times. It's perfect for us because you have to play with the same group of people over a long period of time. Can I open it?
Not yet. Let's... Wait.
Kay arrives, tosses their coat on the floor.
Oh my god, Kay. Did you know that Agatha was getting Pandemic Legacy?
Tonight's full of surprises, isn't it?
There's something so special to me about the first time we play a game. I always remember the first time we play everything. Every box on that shelf has a story.
Like I said, let's wait till Lucien gets here and we'll check in and see how everyone's feeling.
Where is he?
A meeting.
What kind of meeting?
A meeting he goes to every week, but they had to change the day because of Thanksgiving or something.
Uh-huh. I'm so excited. What are we going to do until then?
You can finish Mario Kart.
Nah, Oberon just let the second race start without me.
You ran away.
Because I was getting beers as part of our... Fuck it. Never mind.
Was this another battle for character?
Yeah, and getting the beers somehow became a bargaining chip.
I still think the most badass character to play isn't the best one. No, the most badass choice would obviously be the worst one. Like, any pussy can win playing as the best character, but how much more of a slap in the face is it when you kick someone's ass as Luigi?
Luigi isn't the worst character.
Okay, well, somebody tell that to Luigi. He's currently in 7th, right after Dez.
Kay, did you see the Diablo 3 gameplay footage from BlizzCon I emailed you?
Oh, of course.
Looks dope.
I'm worried they're just gonna turn it into a button masher.
Yeah, maybe, but the graphics look amazing.
Oh, look out for the... Yeah, you got it.
What are you talking about? Gameplay footage? Is there a new Breath of the Wild trailer?
No. We could start another board game till Lucien gets here.
Really?
What kind of weekly meeting is he at?
Sure, let's play a game.
He's not an AA, is he? You can tell me. I don't judge, obviously. Or is this something about he who must not be named? A group therapy session for people who dated assholes?
Leave it alone, Des.
It's something personal.
Then you shouldn't have mentioned it. I mean, the other thing is we could just chat. I feel like I don't remember the last time we hung out without, an alibi. Like when we would stay out at the diner until 2 talking about nothing.
Bottle opener.
Shit, I don't want to go back to the kitchen.
Des tried to open the bottle with his fingers.
Fine. Anybody want anything while I'm in there?
No one does. Des goes. Kay hits their head on the table. They speak so Des can't hear.
I know, man. I know.
Can we just do this now?
Once Lucien gets here.
Why does it matter if he's here? He's obviously on board with it.
That's a good point.
We agreed we would wait until we were all here so we could do this together.
That's true.
Why were you talking about starting a game?
What else do you want to do?
Not play games with Des.
I know, but what the hell else are we supposed to do while we're waiting for Lucien? My whole reason for suggesting it is it's something to do. Unless you want to just keep vamping.
It's the last game you'll ever have to play with him.
Do I have to?
That's true. Do we all need to play, or can just the four of us?
Well, that's gonna look suspicious if we're all playing and Agatha's here picking her nose.
I won't be picking my nose. I'll find some reason to flake off. I'll get more snacks.
We have enough snacks.
Can someone throw me a snack?
Oh my god, maybe I will drink after all.
Think of it this way. You give a dog a chew toy to stop gnawing on the couch. Playing a quick game is going to be Des's chew toy.
And I'm the couch in this analogy?
Yes. A precious couch that's sick of being gnawed on.
By the way, keep him out of the bathroom if you can.
How do you propose we do that?
I don't know, but he takes a gargantuan shit every time he comes over.
Des returns.
You know what, Kay? That's a good idea. Let's start a game for 5 players, because Lucien's meeting goes until 8 anyway.
Mystery meeting.
Oberon, do we have any games for 5?
Specifically for 5? I don't know. Kay's the expert.
Ticket to Ride.
Boom.
Oh yeah, we've been dying to play that.
Yes! I play it on my iPad all the time.
Kay throws down Ticket to Ride.
How do you play?
So, you're building train tracks on a map of the United States.
Oh my god, you haven't played this yet?
That's why she's asking. You build train tracks on a map, building connections between cities.
It's kind of like Transamerica. Remember we played that game once, like 2 years ago?
Oh, so like Risk, but with trains.
Not exactly.
You
So
can't finish. You get a bunch of cards that tell you what cities you're trying to connect, and you get points for every card you complete.
Oh, sure. Does it take long?
No, not too long.
I've only played it on my iPad, so it probably goes quicker on there.
I need a wine bottle opener.
Oh, yeah, and bring some cups.
Agatha goes.
Oh, are you here, Oberon? I hadn't noticed you. We should get started now so we're not stuck in the middle once Lucien gets here.
Okay, I'll pause it.
Will we be done at 8:15, do you think?
A half hour, as long as you're all able to pick it up.
Yeah, as long as you, Agatha, and Oberon are able to pick it up. It's, Box says 30 to 60 minutes.
Hey, Oberon. Why did you have us come over at 7 if Lucien can't be here till 8:15?
How many cups?
They raise their hands, especially Oberon. Agatha goes.
Yo.
Oberon pauses the game, joins the others. Kay opens the box, lays out the board.
So the way it starts, we all get 3 destination tickets, and you have to keep at least 2 of them.
Can I see?
I wish there were a system of high-speed trains all around the country like this.
Pretty sure there is.
Not really. None that people actually use.
I think a lot of people use a Acela.
What's a Acela?
A system of high-speed trains.
Yeah, but it's not like as prevalent as it is in Europe.
And then there are all these train tickets.
Hold on, I thought these were the train tickets.
Those are destination tickets, and in each turn you can either take 2 train tickets or build.
And then there's the rainbow ones.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Are they wild cards?
Yes, but hold on.
They're kind of worth more.
Worth more? What? Is there money?
There's no money.
Well, they're just more valuable, like in terms of the game.
Agatha returns, begins the business of wine.
Here you go.
So, if you choose to build, you have to build on all of the rectangles between the cities. You can't just do them one by one.
Where's Winnipeg? Like in real life?
Manitoba.
Is that in North Dakota?
It's in Canada.
And Manitoba's a province?
Province.
Oh, I thought they called this the United States board.
It's the North America board. Would you shut the
So
fuck
if you
up?
wanted to build between Helena and Denver, you'd have to put down 4 greens.
Exactly.
And with the parallel lines, does that mean 2 people can claim that route?
Yep, you got it.
There aren't any cities in Mexico on the map, but they're calling it the North America board? That's racist. My father would love that.
So, like I said, you can either build on your turn or take 2 cards. And there are always 5 cards face up that you can pick from, or you can take them from the face down pile. And then with the locomotive cards...
I thought they were train cards.
Locomotive cards are train cards.
That's dumb.
Locomotives are the wild card train cards.
Isn't a train just a type of locomotive? That's confusing.
I don't know, Des. The instructions call them locomotives, so I call them locomotives.
Oh, I only played on iPad, so I never read the instructions.
Did you play it on the iPad, Des? So, with the locomotives, if you choose one that's face up, then that's the only card you get.
Oh, I see.
Can we make a house rule to ignore the thing where if there are 3 rainbow cards, you have to discard them all?
No house rules.
Des futzes with the snacks.
Where are the bowls?
Cleo looks to Oberon, but he's back to his video game.
Where are the bowls?
Above the sink.
I look before they're not there.
Then they're probably in the drying rack.
Why don't we just eat out of the bags?
Because we're grown-ass adults, not savages. I didn't see him. Can you look?
Agatha exchanges a look with Cleo.
Oberon?
What?
Nothing.
Cleo and Agatha go.
What?
I think Cleo and Ag wanted you to show me where the bowls are.
For eating or smoking?
Eating.
Above the sink.
Never mind.
Oh, but that reminds me.
Oberon finds his bag, pulls out a bong. Cleo and Agatha return with snacks and bowls.
What the hell are you doing? The windows are still wide open.
She rushes around and closes blinds.
Oh, please, like the neighbors are spying through the windows.
Do you want Mrs. O'Sullivan coming back to your father with that information?
Neighborgate Part 2.
It's dark.
Yeah, and when it's dark outside and light in here, people outside can see in.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Fine, we'll take it into the woods.
Or you could ease off tonight.
I held off smoking all week so I could smoke tonight.
You could also skip a week. The point isn't to smoke one night a week, it's to smoke one night a week at most. Oberon.
Cleo holds eye contact. Oberon gets her meaning. Des pulls some money out of his pocket and gives it to Oberon.
No, I should ease off.
Why?
Not in the mood.
I am. Come on, it's within your rules. Fine. Okay?
Kay shakes their head.
Because Cleo told you not to? That seems unusually controlling. Agatha?
No thanks.
Okay. Weird.
Lucien comes in from outside, discreetly squeezing a bloody tissue in his fist.
Hey, you.
Hey.
You're earlier than usual. Was your meeting canceled?
Yeah, how was your meeting? Not that I know what it was. It's just, my ears work, so I notice when people talk about things in front of me.
Can you not?
I didn't make it to the city, actually.
Shit, what happened?
I got pulled over.
Oh, fuck. Did you get a ticket?
What for?
I was let off with an unspecified warning and lots of vague, condescending threats.
You're bleeding, oh my god.
Oh gosh, no, this is unrelated. It's a paper cut. Well, a sticker cut.
Cleo is skeptical at this.
So I noticed I've been pulled over 3 times since the election. So after this time, I decided to finally take my bumper sticker off.
He throws out the sticker.
Sorry, Madam Secretary. It's just not worth it.
You think it was the sticker?
Well, it's that or the cops just got the memo that I'm driving while colored. Either way, while I was trying to get under the sticker, it sliced right under my finger.
Oh, no! Oh, no! Oh, no! Oh, no!
Because I was trying to pry the sticker off and it...
Oberon, go get a Band-Aid.
Oh, God! Oh, God! Oh, God! Oh, God!
Where are they?
Are you kidding me? We're in your house. They're in the blue tub under the sink.
Boy, you're taking Lucien's injury pretty badly.
I'm squeamish.
In the kitchen?
In the bathroom, you hopeless child.
Oberon goes.
Take a chill pill, Des.
Sorry, I didn't mean to come in and make this about me.
You're not the one making a scene.
Okay, we'll go to the precinct, file a complaint. Did you get the officer's badge number?
No, I forgot.
You always have to memorize the officer's badge number.
I remember his name.
Okay, then we'll look him up. We'll figure it out.
Oh, wait, I meant to tell you all. Oberon's neighbors watched me come in.
Shit. Neighborgate neighbors?
Yeah, neighborgate neighbors. I think they recognized me as the crazy black guy who got into a screaming match with them about the middle class.
We're not going to talk about the election tonight.
Amen.
Oh, awesome. But just saying.
Oberon returns.
Did you hear that? Your neighbors are suspicious.
Fuck them.
Oberon crosses to the window and pulls the blinds up.
Don't shout at them.
I'm not shouting.
He moons them.
Lick my hole, motherfuckers! Okay, I shouted.
All right, so Ticket to Ride is on hold for now. On our pile for the night, 7 Wonders, Codenames, or if we're feeling less strategy-based, Telestrations.
The others look to Oberon.
Hello?
Right. Let's do this.
He attempts decorum as he puts his pants back on.
Des, we wanted to talk first.
Okay. Can I get set up while we talk?
Let's figure that out later.
Figure out what? Are we playing 7 Wonders?
Would you mind leaving the games alone for now? We wanted to talk about the group, actually.
I can listen and set up at the same time.
Des, put the fucking game down.
What? What's going on?
We want to talk to you.
This has been Deal Me Out by M.J. Halberstadt. Cast include
John Vellante as Des,
Joe Ruscio as Oberon,
Chelsea Ruscio as Cleo,
Kim Klasner as Agatha,
Ella Mock as Kay,
Maurice Palmer as Lucien,
Pascale Florestal as stage directions.
Our featured playwright is M.J. Halberstadt, who is currently wrapping up his Huntington Theatre Playwriting Fellowship. He's won the Elliot Norton Award for Outstanding New Script for the Launch Prize. He has been produced by Fresh Ink Theatre and Bridge Repertory Theatre, among others. And he's affiliated faculty at Emerson College. Welcome to the show, MJ.
Hey, thank you both for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, completely unexpected to me, because I don't pick from a stack of plays. I invite playwrights to the podcast and let them choose their plays for the most part. I didn't know that this play would be about board games. And I don't know if you ever looked at my bio. No shame if you haven't. But I self-published board games for over a decade, so this subject matter actually hits pretty close to home for me. What are your board games like? I've never been in a board game group with bylaws like this, but I do know the perils of gaming with bummers.
Yeah, I tend to play Dominion primarily, and I know it's sacrilege, but I hate Settlers of Catan. And Monopoly is a very important game in the Halberstadt family.
Really, even now?
Yes, absolutely. For Christmas this year, I got 3 different Monopoly boards. I have a Mario Kart Monopoly on top of my Nintendo and my Super Mario Monopolies, and I got a game called Anti-Monopoly. Yeah, board games are I feel peripheral to the board game world, certainly not as in tune as you must be.
Well, not anymore these days. I've sort of taken a hiatus from board game design, sort of corresponding to having a kid.
That'll do it.
I only have time for a few hobbies at a time, and playwriting and podcasting right now are it. How about you, Ethan? Are you connected to board game world at all?
Not. I mean, it is this very intricate world. I think increasingly in the last couple of decades has become something that people really build their lives around. And so no, I mean, I had my Monopoly boards growing up too, but it's been a long time since college where we were just throwing the dice across the room in rage at each other. And I kind of left it behind since then.
I never thought of making writing a play about a board game group. So how did that idea come about?
The germ for the play came from a short film that I encountered called RPG, created by Sadie Rogers. And I read an interview with her about the creation of the short film, which is about a group of young people playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they kill off one of the members within the game. And a close watch suggests that they have conspired to kick out this member. And that was affirmed for me when I read this interview where she talks about being a server at a board game bar, and there was a group of people playing chess, and they kicked out the leader of their group, and he threatened to attempt suicide if they kicked him out of the group. And I thought that was a really fascinating story, and I emailed her and said, hey, I'm really inspired by the story that inspired your film. I think I'm going to roll with it. And she was like, yeah, go for it. She was super kind about it. And I harbor a fantasy that one day the play will be in Chicago and she'll be able to be a part of the production, and it'll be like a full circle moment. We'll see.
It occurred to me reading the play whether you had ever considered trying to get it staged at some of the big board game conventions there are in the world.
Oh, I hadn't thought of conventions. I was thinking of some of the board game bars in the area.
Yeah. Night
Moves in Brookline. Oh, there's another Night Moves, I think, somewhere in the Somerville area. It's interesting because the flashbacks are a relatively new element to the play, and I think with them, the flashbacks confuse or otherwise inhibit a strict and immersive experience for this play, because it does betray the unity of time. I like them. I do kind of feel married to them, but I'm not sure if it shuts the door for there being immersive productions of the play. But maybe at a convention where it doesn't have to be immersive, it can just be an offering as part of the conversation.
Right. Because there's a bunch of conventions that are huge and they have all these different events. So I've never seen a play done there, but I'm like, you could pitch that. You could totally pitch that.
Yeah, I love that.
And everyone there knows all these games and are in groups, maybe not to this extent, but they know the vibe, which you've captured quite well, I think. That's something to think about.
Yeah, I like that.
MJ, you just used the word immersive, which kind of leads to one of the questions that I was wondering about. So the play features no act breaks, and there's no space for an intermission. I was wondering if that was sort of essential to the experience that you're trying to create, or if you had ever considered staging it in a more traditional sort of 2-act with an intermission way.
I'm generally reticent to add intermissions generally. One of my plays had 2 intermissions and I cut them both. I have a play for high schoolers where I think the intermission is critical. And otherwise, I try to avoid them as much as I can, especially because every time I hear somebody say 80 minutes, no intermission, they get high fives. Everyone's so excited. I just saw Alexis Shear's great play, Laughs in Spanish, at BPT, and during the curtain speech, a voice says the play is 80 minutes, no intermission, you're welcome, and the whole audience cheered. I think that that's where a lot of new plays are headed, and I'm interested in that. I think our attention spans are dwindling anyway.
I think another thing that idea of this unbroken stretch of time leads me to is this is such a agonizing social situation that you've created for us. So much of the play is you sort of slowly ratcheting up the tension until it's really almost unbearable. I think an intermission would really change that. But I was wondering how conscious you were as you were writing of sort of where the line is that this could flip from engaging for the audience to just unbearable.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I wrote the play before I had ever read Gloria. And every person who read it said, you have to read or watch Gloria. It's different from Gloria in a lot of ways, and Gloria does offer a little bit of breathing room, which I think is essential because spoiler alert, the event at the end of the first act of Gloria is shocking, likely triggering, and I think does require a bit of space.
Can you briefly recap Gloria for anyone not?
Sure. The first act of Gloria seems to be an office comedy, and at the end of the first act, one of the characters takes out a gun and shoots most of the characters that you've come to meet. What? And the second act is interested in the fallout and is slightly more traditional as a play, where there are scenes and you're finding folks at different moments in time, all dealing with the fallout of this shooting. I think you're right. I think that the tension is meant to be a little bit assaulting, but not quite to that level. And I did spend some time trying to figure out where to drop Dez's threat of suicide, and I think putting it towards the end of the play is right, because then we do get the chance to breathe at the end of the play. If the momentum dictated that it belonged sooner, then I might want to put an intermission there.
Well, it's interesting that you say that you have experimented with moving that around, because something that really strikes me, as I mentioned in the introduction, is this play feels very deliberately plotted, and while it's very naturalistic, it does follow, to me, a very sort of calibrated, it almost has a 3-act structure, even as it is one sustained thing. And so I was wondering if you had any kind of sort of tips or tricks that you use when you are kind of balancing this naturalism, this fly on the wall, just hangout experience with a sort of plot that does sort of draw the audience in and follow along.
Oh, that's a great question. Oh boy, you'll have to cut out this stunned silence, because I don't know. What I do find useful, I use Scrivener for writing, and Scrivener allows you to create individual scenes, and even when I'm writing a play where there aren't scenes strictly speaking, there's no scene break, I still will label different quantities of action, or I guess moments of action into scenes, as far as Scrivener is concerned, and the names of those scenes will be things like things get worse, or bunch of bullshit for 10 minutes. I'll do that, and I also, when I map out the structure of the play or the organization of the play, I will just write 12 bullet points and break things down between 1 and 12. And I like 12 because it's how we think of time, is in 12s.
That's interesting. I never thought of that. I mean, I think that even as you were stunned by the question, I think that is such a perfect answer for people who maybe are starting to think about creating something like this, because I think when you're just starting out as a playwright, the image is just to see this sort of sprawling time as completely disorganized. And so when I said tips and tricks, I was thinking of the people listening to this being like, how can I write a play?
I have a less straightforward answer to that question. I've been reading a lot of books on screenwriting because I pretend to be a screenwriting professor at Emerson, and no one has found me out yet. But in that, as I've been creating that disguise, I've been reading a lot of books about it, and I wish I could remember who said this, but a screenwriter said, I want to be able to wear a pair of glasses and look at a script and see it color-coded to indicate how difficult each part of the script was for the screenwriter to write. Because then I would feel a lot better about all the struggling that I do in trying to create things that feel effortless. And that just gave me so much heart. Like, why, yes, it does feel so effortless when it comes out of the actors' mouths to a certain extent. But there is a lot of work that goes into. I mean, it's like some people wake up and their hair looks so perfect. I'll wake up sometimes and like, how many hours would it take me to get my hair to look as carelessly nice as it sometimes does, accidentally?
Right. Your hair looks lovely today. For the listener at home, just imagine. And
I don't even know. I tied it up.
Well, that reminds me of one of my favorite quotes about, I can't remember if it was a writer or a songwriter. Somebody asked them, I want to say it's Stephen King, that might be completely incorrect, but somebody said, where do you get your ideas? And this artist said, well, if I knew the room where the good ideas were, I would go there a lot more often.
Do you tend to plot out and just outline your scripts before you start writing in earnest, or is there some give and take there?
Usually I don't. Usually I let myself meander, and I'll just Swiss cheese it. I'll write the things I know and then fill in the blanks a little bit later. Okay, that's not what you do with Swiss cheese, but you get what I mean. I did, just for fun, plot out an entire play just to see like what that would be like. And I even wrote it in Microsoft Word, which I have not done in a long time, just to see like what happens when I exercise this different muscle. And it feels like a completely different process when you do plot out versus when you don't. And I think different plays necessitate different processes. And at a certain point, I mean, in revising this, that is when I felt like the need to plot it out or to use my logic brain instead of my emotion brain. Also called a heart, I guess. Insert metaphor here.
To talk about a little bit sort of what's on the page here, I was really intrigued by a couple of things that are on the page that aren't going to come across to the audience. And one is looking at the front matter in the character breakdown. I noticed that you are somewhat poetic and evocative when you describe characters. So Dez is described as he always gets the blue token, and if there isn't one in that game, he'll use one from another game, which is like a line that you really want to like sit with and marinate with. And that's not something that's going to come across to the audience. And some writers are kind of ruthlessly just like descriptive. 25 years old, skinny, long hair. And so what do you see as the benefit to that approach of using a somewhat more evocative style?
I think it helps with casting. I think it begins to paint a picture. At least right now in this play, I don't have a firm grasp of who these characters are demographically, or at least I'm not currently in a position where I feel like I'm wanting to dictate their demographics in the same way that in other plays, I have a very specific idea of demographics. But yeah, I think for me, those elements of the personality are more at issue in the play.
It was a fun sort of character note, especially for anyone who plays games. It's like, oh yeah, that's that jerk who does that.
And it comes up a couple of times in the play. Once you notice that, once you're cued into it, I didn't even notice it on my first read. On my second, I noticed a lot of references to blue.
I meant every one of them.
Absolutely, of course you did.
Oh, now I'm going to be looking out for that. That's funny.
I read, leading up to this, The Launch Prize, which is another of your plays, and it also has to do with a close-knit set of people whose relationship falls apart when you put a stress on it over the course of a play. And it's interesting. I don't imagine all your plays are like that, but it's an interesting comparison between the two.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And there are a couple of ways in which the processes were somewhat similar as well. I think you're right. Both of the plays are similar meditations on similar themes.
One person in the group is just pushing buttons, and then it just goes over the edge.
I'm waiting for someone to find me out. I'm waiting for someone to say, like, did you know that these characters are all almost exactly the same? And these characters, like, I definitely have a couple of archetypes across. But I'll worry about that when the time is right.
When they're assembling the career retrospective.
Exactly.
Well, that's actually interesting because that's a play that I read on New Play Exchange as well when I was just sort of fanboying on you. I think it's an interesting comparison point because both of these plays have very naturalistic dialogue that, you have just the right sort of stammers and ums and ahs written into the script to make it really feel very conversational. And I was wondering if that is something that comes naturally to you as you're drafting, or do you need to sort of read the play aloud, or does it come when you're workshopping with actors?
I think that writing natural-sounding dialogue does come naturally to me. And the work comes in when I have to when I realize that natural-sounding dialogue does not necessarily make for congruous characters. I'll have to go back and recognize these speech patterns come from the same character supposedly, but they don't sound like the same person. And so the work that remains to be done is massaging the dialogue and making sure that it lines up to create an accurate constellation of speech patterns and stuff like that.
I love that constellation of speech patterns. That's good. Let's write that one down for the...
I don't know if you do editing on your podcast, but if you do sort of granular editing and trying to take out ums and all that, you'll realize that you can only go so far with writing naturalistic dialogue. You can get away with what people actually say in terms of drive actors nuts.
Well, you want to sort of make it look, you mentioned sort of effort versus seeming effortless, and I think it's so easy to put in the wrong number of stammers and ums and ahs, and then it comes across as completely just flat to the audience.
I got made fun of, but I stand by it. I think it was the Launch Prize, where close to when the script was due, I was sharing some of my script changes, and I believe I changed a comma to a semicolon, and someone made fun of me, and I was like, no, I stand by it. That difference is important.
I completely agree. I'm the exact same way, so I have your back there.
And that person noticed the change from comma to
right,
semicolon.
There you go. It changes the delivery. Oh gosh, I hope I'm remembering this right, that a stage manager was like, actually, this felt more like a comma than a semicolon, so make sure that you honor it. I think it was that play. Oh, whatever it was.
I would love to shift into some of the sort of more loaded aspects of this play, which is that, it's set very shortly after the 2016 election. That's not the only source of tension, but it is an extremely significant one. And because it's tangential to the plot, but also not, I was curious. I could see a version of this script where the significance of the election is sort of looming but unspoken, and instead you engage with it very directly. You use the name Trump, you use the name Bernie with great frequency. And I was wondering if it was always your intent to engage really so directly, or did you consider being more oblique?
I wrote the first draft of the play in September 2016, and politics did not come up. And then while revising it, I put in references to the presidential election as a placeholder. I didn't know what for. And then I heard the play out loud, and I really didn't want to leave it in there. I told everyone at the table, this is just here. I think something else is going to replace it. And I got outvoted by everyone at the table. No, this makes sense. You don't have to refer to it any more than this. And at least for now, I feel content to leave it in there, especially as I'm hoping to see a production of the play in spring 2020, which I think would be an opportune moment to be having conversations about infighting during the primary election.
That is fascinating to me, because I read the whole play really as sort of a exploration of the way that these cracks of these seams can show up in the wake of the election. I imagine you had written this, far after, so that is really interesting to me, and sort of makes me think about, I wonder if there are things that you were doing that you weren't aware you were doing. So,
do you worry about it being aged by the rooting in the 2016 time period?
To an extent, yes, but I also think that 2016's election is not
It's a psychic scar.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be quickly forgotten. And because I think the play can still function without it, I don't think anyone's going to walk away from the play, let's hope, 100 years from now and say, wait, was Donald Trump the president? And like, I don't think anyone's going to walk away saying, wait, I had no idea what was going on because I don't know who Donald Trump is. Like, I guess I'm, for now, no, but maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Well, that's something that I find really impressive about it, is that it is not going to be completely sort of locked to this moment. I mean, the plot functions as an engaging story, and it's not a novelty the way a lot of plays that try to engage so directly with the political movement are. And I don't think I have seen anything like this that is really sort of up to its elbows in the ugly and messy elements of this political moment while being timeless on a broader scale. And so I like that. And I was wondering if there's any sort of, you think there could be a broader metaphoric value to using board games and gameplay as the lens through which to view this sort of loaded cultural moment for us?
I was having a conversation with my friend Rebecca Bradshaw, the director. She was talking about the first moment of the play where they're talking about choosing Mario Kart characters, about dividing them into weight classes. And she assumed that I was thinking about political parties and the ways that they are already kind of splintered, but even within one political party, there are developing factions. And she assumed that that's what I was talking about when I'm talking about like Toad and Princess Peach and Yoshi. And it was another one of those moments where I do that same joke I always do of like, well, yes, I did intend all of that. I think that is a part of it. And I think in many ways, politics have been gamified. A thing that I'm really interested in personally is ranked choice voting, and really anything that can help ameliorate some of the really toxic partisanship that is, I think, one of the major things tearing our country apart right now. I think that's what the play is more interested in than espousing a liberal agenda.
I saw sort of an element of the first they came for the next group, and I said nothing. Element of that when Des is looking around to the whole group and saying, like, well, what about when it's your turn next? And actually, I'm looking at my notes now that I took as I read the play. I read so much significance into these lines that you did not intend. I don't know if we'll hear this in the excerpt, but there is the line, the most badass character to win with is the worst one. How much more of a slap in the face is it when you kick someone's ass as Luigi? And I wrote down, well, that's Trump. Because Trump isn't Wario, he's Luigi. He's the most embarrassing one to be beaten by. So I'm sure you completely intended that 100%, right?
And yet, I think that gets complicated because to many people, he's Mario. To many people, he's the best. He's the one that we want as our face. But I see what you're saying.
No, I know. Mario, the Galaxy of Mario Stars is just this multifaceted metaphor.
Completely one-on-one-to-one with our political class. Do you worry about having to train actors in a play on all these games and how it should look when you play them?
I'll tell you, the answer is no, because I don't direct. That's the director's problem. One of the pleasant surprises that has come up is that as I'm sharing this play with folks, I'm finding that there are tons of people who really love board games and don't really have too many conversations and don't make community around board games. But I think there is a hunger for it. You probably know this better than I do. You probably know the community in an intimate way that I just haven't really encountered yet.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of ongoing board game nights, and there used to be Unity games where they fill up a whole hotel ballroom with just everyone bring their games and just 1,000 people playing games from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And they stopped doing that because they can no longer find ballrooms that fit them. They grew out of being able to do it anymore at a low level. They would have to make it a multi-day event if they were going to keep doing it, and they just couldn't sustain it.
See, and I just feel fortunate for having seemingly arbitrarily chosen board games because they allowed for a larger cast than chess or and I don't know Dungeons and Dragons at all, and so board games it was.
Or poker or something like that.
Sure.
Which is I think the term that you used for the title. Deal Me Out would be a specifically poker term, wouldn't it?
There are card games played at board game nights. So,
okay.
I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
So, MJ, you mentioned at the beginning that you would consider this as a possible immersive experience, and a lot of your work is immersive and site-specific, and I have never forgotten in the years since we met the project of yours you told me about involving Cars, the car plays. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I just saw Nick Medvescik yesterday. He's a dear friend of mine. We went to Emerson together, and I forgot why we were getting together. He was interested to talk about the potential for mini productions. And I shared with him that I just read an article in American Theater Magazine about car plays that were happening in parking lots in Los Angeles. And we were in a loud restaurant, and I described it to him, where a person buys a sheet of tickets, and they get to see 5 plays in a row. There are 15 cars parked, and you go from one car to the other and sit in the back seat while the actors in the front seat perform a 10-minute play, and you move from one car to the other. And it was loud, and so Nick misunderstood what I was saying, and he said, "Wait, so the cars are moving?" And I was like, "No, that's ridiculous." And then he asked, "Why not?" And so the car plays were born in that little misunderstanding. So we put our heads together. I came up with a plot that necessitated 2 characters driving in a 10-minute loop, and 3 audience members at a time sit in the back seat. In the first models of the car plays, there was a strict 4th wall where the actors do not acknowledge the audience members unless their seatbelt is not buckled. And it was just a closed route, and we tried 3 different stories using that model. And then we constructed a different play that was slightly more complex, where audience members sort of are their own protagonist and are ushered through the story by the characters. And sort of by necessity, the characters in these plays have very overbearing personalities, so that an audience member does get to sort of participate, but they are not able to dictate the conversation in any way. It requires a very specific kind of actor, somebody who's able to improvise and fill time, and I'll offer content to them like, okay, if you're stuck at a red light, then just start talking about like such and such character's Instagram and how annoying it is. And it's a very different kind of writing, because you cannot be precious about the dialogue itself. It does not lend itself to punny dialogue or jokes in any way. It's much more situational. So Chelsea Ruscio, who's going to be reading Cleo, she was in the very first car play, and a car cut her off, and she was so brilliant. I don't remember quite what she said, but she alluded to an earlier line in the play in shouting at the person who had cut her off, and then went right back into the situation. And yeah, it's a fun rabbit hole to fall down. Most recently, I was commissioned by the Museum of Fine Arts to put together a play as part of one of their late nights events, and it was all about knitting. I love knitting. I'm a huge knitter. And I found 6 actors who have some relationship to knitting. We constructed a story around it.
This is Hardly Soft?
This is Hardly Soft. And it's always fun. It's always an experiment. You have to find actors who are just like willing to play. They're willing to take the work seriously, but not too seriously. We had a safe word for Hardly Soft. If I heard one of the actors say crochet, I had to go run over, and I heard Kim Klasner shouting, "Crochet, crochet, crochet." Like, MJ will teach you how to crochet. He's the leader of the group. So I rush over, and there are 3 extremely well-dressed individuals, and they look very upset and offended. And I'm like, "Hey, like, come over here. Like, let's talk for a second." And he's like, "You're the leader of this group?" And I said, "Yes. So this is an immersive play, mind you." A description of the play was in the program for the event. He said, "You're not supposed to have knitting needles here. Who gave you permission to have knitting needles in the museum?" And I told him, like, "Oh, well, it's a commissioned play." And then he asked me, "How do I know you're not a fictional character as well?" Come to find out,
deep philosophical question.
Yes, coming from the director of the museum, accompanied by the president of the board of the museum. They just happened to have not read the program to see that the knitting people in the museum were fictional characters in a play. So, I mean, it's a risk that comes up, and you cannot treat the text too preciously. It's going to fall apart at the seams a little bit. In one of the other card plays where there was conversation between the audience and the characters, the story hinged on a fictional algorithm that is used for an app that helps people make important life decisions. And one of the characters decides to quit her job when she learns that her boss is being replaced by the algorithm. And an audience member said, "Do you think the algorithm anticipated that you would quit and took that into consideration?" And so, like, when we were debriefing, the actors and I agreed if we were to ever remount it, we would need to have a story meeting to come up with enough backstory that if questions came up, we would have prepared and consistent answers to those questions. It's a very different type of writing, to be sure. It's much more collaborative, and given enough time and energy, I would love to construct more.
Sounds kind of like video game writing.
I think so, exactly. And like open world video game writing, which I'm sure is like a whole other craft. But more truly, a writer constructs it with the actors, I think.
For those car plays, if you can somehow partner with Uber or Lyft.
I thought about plays where the driver is hired to drive the audience member to a location. I really struggled with coming up with plays that necessitate a circle. But I'm also thinking about plays where audience members hire the car to park outside of any given location, and the play is stationary. And so the play is available for hire, sort of like a Lyft, but it doesn't take you anywhere.
That can be the documentary title, is that the play is available for hire. When we make a documentary about this.
Yeah.
So what is it that is appealing to you about this immersive and site-specific theater? Because to me as a playwright, that sounds just sort of anathema to my process and my interest. So as I'm sure a lot of more traditional playwrights would feel the same. So what is it for you that is so engaging about that?
The types of people who are interested to attend them tend to be open-minded and game in a way that, let's say, subscribers to well-established theater companies just aren't. I'm interested in plays as beginnings of conversations. When people go to car plays, they're interested to begin a conversation. I'm not going to say unlike anything that has ever happened before, because other people have done this in other cities in different iterations with slightly different rules or the same rules. It's difficult to compare it to anything. And so there's a part of me that's grateful that nobody can say, oh, you did it wrong. It's a little impervious to elements of theater culture that I find frustrating and unnecessary obstacles, when for me the point is just like, let's have fun. Let's open a conversation. I might feel differently if I were trying to, I think, accomplish something profound in an immersive play, and I don't think I've tried to do that yet.
Although I think you could just call the whole idea of exposing an audience to something like this can be quite a profound experience for them. So,
and with the dearth of performance space in Boston, just having a car, that's
right.
Yeah,
that's very true.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And immersive plays, I mean, as they have found different homes, a lot of that has been folks reaching out to me, the Hacking Arts Festival at MIT, the Museum of Fine Arts, and a friend of mine who runs an art gallery. They're interested to hire these performances to come to them. And so there's a wider exposure because people who are engaging with those organizations, those spaces, are exposed to work, as opposed to folks who are seeking theater out. I'm interested in reaching whoever I can.
So MJ, you're also a teacher. You have experience teaching both undergraduate and graduate students at Emerson and at Merrimack College.
Yes, and this semester Northeastern as well.
Okay,
I'm flipping my hair, you can't see.
Specifically, I was interested in your work with undergrads because these are playwrights who presumably are about a decade younger than the people sitting around this table, and I was wondering if you had any sort of projections from seeing their interests and their proclivities and biases, if you had any projections for what kind of the future of this craft could be.
An ironic truth in my life right now is I'm teaching primarily screenwriting classes at Emerson. I taught a playwriting class at Merrimack, and I'm teaching a playwriting class at Northeastern. So I'm mostly engaging with film students.
Well, then maybe we could talk about it from a storytelling perspective.
Sure. One of the things that continues to surprise me, undergraduate students consume a ton of content on YouTube, on Vimeo. They're consuming a ton more independent work than I expected. That's a major trend that I'm noticing. As far as the content that they're working on, there are some students who are replicating a lot of what they see. And then there's another camp of students that are creating extremely social justice-oriented media. One of the things that I've been trying to keep my finger on the pulse of, especially at a college as liberal as Emerson, is the line between call-out culture and social justice. And one of my concerns, and I think Deal Me Out is sort of addressed to undergraduate age students, young people, is a tendency to need to shut down a conversation because it doesn't feel squeaky clean to them. One of the things that I really hope to champion as a teacher is to invite students to lean into discomfort, lean into the difficulty of a conversation, and keep the conversation going, and to see through some of the clunkiness and awkwardness and difficulty of conversations in order to have the conversations that I think they need to be having. And I'm not sure where things will necessarily land, but I do think that media is in many ways becoming much more siloed because there's so much more available, and so folks are able to find what speaks to them. And I think that's making media more unique, more discreet, and I think that's a good thing, but it also makes trends a lot harder to identify.
I know you say in your bios online that you seek to include characters from underrepresented populations like LGBT and people of color. And I know that you're, I think, the first playwright that's been on here that's has your public persona part of your sexuality as a gay man. I just want to give you the opportunity to speak on like queer theater scene in Boston.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, that's a big conversation that I'm having right now at Speakeasy through the Boston Project. I have a commission through them, and I'm working on a play that imagines that Boston still has a queer bookstore. Ownership of the store is being passed from an older white gay man to a younger white gay man, and the generational differences that ensue, just for starters, each of their definitions of the word queer. And through that process, I've been really, really privileged to have the support of Speakeasy, of Paul Daniel, the artistic director, and of the creative team who I'm working with, including Pascale, who's the Boston Project coordinator, Megan Sandberg-Zakian, who's directing, and Helen Deborah Lewis, who's the dramaturg. Between the three of them, they are all queer women who have very different lived experiences. And the experience of a queer woman in Boston is very different than the experience of a queer man. And then, let's not even get started. I'm white. And so there are a lot of doors that are open to me in queer Boston that are closed to any non-white gay man, let alone any non-white queer person who is not male identified. One of the things that I am wrestling with in the play is that for a city that should be as queer as Boston is, it really isn't. We're losing spaces left and right, and some people applaud that and call it integration. I'm not ready to clap. I'm really upset about it, even though I'm on a Saturday night, I'm home on the couch knitting with my husband. We're not at Club Cafe. But if Club Cafe closed, I'd be really devastated by that because it's a major institution. Yeah. I'm not sure that there's a queer theater scene. I think the closest that we have is Speakeasy.
Maybe Theater Offensive?
Sure, Theater Offensive. But I see Theater Offensive as more of an educational company than a presenting company. I may be wrong. I haven't really had the opportunity to engage with them all that much. But yeah, it's something that I would love to see an expressly queer presenting theater organization in Boston. I think it's needed. Zeitgeist just closed.
Right. On that note, I think we are running a little low on time, and we see some actors congregating to record the excerpt. So one thing I hope happens, that people listen to the podcast will look into working with the future playwrights. And so if this happens, what would be the phone call you'd most like to get from someone listening to this podcast?
Oh, I would love to receive a phone call from some kind of political organization like ranked choice voting. I'm very interested in ranked choice voting. Maine has implemented it, and it allows folks to, rather than vote for a single candidate, you get to rank your choices. And there's some great videos by CGP Grey on YouTube that demonstrate how ranked choice voting can help decrease partisanship and allow some original thought to actually have a presence in discourse.
Right.
And as I see it, this play is an invitation to, I would like for it to be used as a tool to invite more critical thought about our political process and decrease partisanship across the board, within parties and across the political spectrum. I would love for RCV to say, oh, we really want to get behind this play and work with you to use it as a tool through a talkback series and on and on and on to begin this conversation. And hopefully to use it in order to, it's sort of an extended metaphor in a way. I'm not interested in participating in politics, but I think that using a play can help invite the conversation in a way that helps people understand the implications of something like Darcy.
Well, we'll see if that comes about. MJ and Ethan, thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Thank you both.
Thank you. This was really cool.
And to everyone listening, support new plays and support local playwrights.
Deal Me Out was written by M.J. Halberstadt. Follow us on Twitter at BossPodPlay and on Facebook. Please rate us on iTunes or your podcast player of choice. You can support us on Patreon at BossPodPlay. Our theme was composed by Thomas Deus, thomasdeusmusic.com. Additional music by bensound.com. Other than yourself, do you know of a Boston area playwright who you'd like to be featured on the show? Let us know at bosspodplay@gmail.com.